Hello, welcome to Yard Talk. I'm your host, Doug LaForce. Today, we're doing a driver spotlight. Today's spotlight features Mark Williams. Mark can be quite the chatty Cathy, but that's okay. He's been here quite a while and he's got a lot to say. So, I hope you enjoy.
Okay, well, here we are. One of my favorite things so far in doing this program is Driver Spotlight. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and we'll start from the beginning, and we'll kind of just progress through your career, if you would.
Okay, first I'd like to ask you to turn the light out of my eyes, just a tad too bright.
Too bright.
Yeah, I thought this was just going to be
I'm
video.
not the light technician, but I'll see if I can work on it, get it a little bit dimmer out of your...
All right, appreciate it. I'll introduce myself. I am Mark Williams. I have been at UPS since May 23rd of 1989. 19-year-old kid, showed up the first time here after calling in for approximately 10-12 weeks. Was going to college at the time, and they showed up looking for people to help out replace workers for the summer. A buddy of mine that was at college, he decided he was going to get the job, so he gets on. I'm working at Kmart, going to college, making $3.35 an hour. I let him work that job about 2 weeks, and he comes back, and I said, "Hey man, how you like that?" He said, "Oh dude," he said, "it's hard work." And he was a little fella. I mean, he was skinny, little tiny guy. And he said, they're killing me. He said, but they're getting ready to move me to a different job. He said, "I've been unloading packages." I was like, "Really?" I said, "How much they paying you?" He said, "Well, I'm making $8 an hour unloading those trailers, but they're going to pay me $9 to learn how to preload those brown trucks you see running around downtown." I was like, "How much did you say?" I mean, we're talking 3 times what I would have been making.
Yeah.
And so I was just dumbfounded. I was like, "Dude, see if they need any more help." I looked at it as an opportunity to work out. I had played football all my life.
Okay.
And so I'm like, a little physical exercise ain't going to hurt me none.
Sure.
Sign me up.
Sure.
So the only other job I'd had was working at Kmart. Well, I almost lost this job 2 weeks in because I didn't know anything. I was green as a gourd, you know. So I start showing up like second, third day. I'm showing up 7 minutes after the hour. Because at Kmart, they had told me as long as I was there 7 minutes before 15 minutes. So if you went to the 8th minute, you did not get paid for the 15 minutes. And the same thing when you punched out. If you punched out 8 minutes past the hour, you got paid for the 15 minutes. So my mindset is that's all I knew was it worked that way everywhere that you went.
Oh, sure.
So in my second week, I have the center manager pull me aside and said, "Do you not like this job?" I said, "No." I said, "I love it." I said, "I'm making more money than I ever have." He said, "Well, you're about to lose it." He said, "Why can't you get here on time?" And I said, "Huh?" He said, "Why can't you get here on time?" He said, "You're late every day." I said, "I'm not late, man." I said, "Look at the time card." I said, "I'm always here before 7 minutes after." So he says, "What does that have to do with anything?"
Right.
And I was like, "Well, at my other job, Kmart," I said, "as long as I'm there by 7 minutes, I'm good." He was like, "No, son." He said, "It don't work that way here." He said, "I expect you in the work area at the time of your start time. You need to get here on time and be in your work area, or else you ain't going to be working here very long."
Well, that was good to get that explained.
Yeah, I got that straightened out real quick.
That's good.
So,
that's good.
But I'll tell you how I got here the first day. I always find that to be an interesting story. Like I said, I had called in for the better part of 10 to 12 weeks. And I'm going to school in the morning hours, like 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And I'm working at Kmart when I get off from there. So I'm calling in. I'm getting up at, I had to call at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'd ring the phone. They gave me this phone number. Guy would answer the phone and say, "UPS." I'd say, "Hi, this is Mark Williams. Do you need me?" "Nope." Click. I've got one word answer, "Nope," and I'd hear the phone hang up. So this has gone on for 8 or 10 weeks. And I'm thinking, man, I ain't getting no job at this place. They don't need people.
Right.
So finally, this goes on, like I said, 10, 12 weeks. I call in on May 23rd, 1989. This is my big day. That's what, it had been raining thunder striking, lightning all night long. I make my phone call, expecting to hear a note click and I can go back to sleep because I got to be at school. This particular night, guy picks up the phone. I said, "Hey, you need me?" I'm expecting to lay the phone down. This is the first time I hear anything different. The guy says, "How long will it take you to get here?" And I'm like, I didn't know what to say because I was ready to hang up. I was like, "Well, I can be there in like 12 minutes. So I just live right up the street." He was like, "I need you to get down here." He said, "When you get here, we've had a storm and all the electricity is out. So we're trying to do stuff in the dark. We need as many hands on deck as we can get." He said, "When you get here, park in the back of the building, come down the side, go in the middle door. There's a garage door. Go up to the top of that, and you're going to find a guy with a deep voice named Doug." He said, "Tell him to put you to work." So that was my first day that I took the place by storm.
By storm. Like
That's
it,
right.
Like it. There you go.
So I took it by storm, and I ain't ever left. Here I am.
Okay, so how long did you load until you got into packages?
Well, I ended up working in the unload for the better part of about 3.5 months, I think. So I got here in May, so I worked until it got hot.
Okay.
And that was a huge problem for a lot of the guys because if you wasn't used to it, sweating, in the middle of the night, you've got these trailers that are parked somewhere all day and then they're getting moved. And the heat that builds up in there, it's like 107, 108 degrees because they've got that clear panel up top.
Sure.
Well, back then they had clear panels. Now we've got some with solid panels.
Right.
But so the trucks would sit and just bake all day long. Well, you open up that door to get ready to unload it. Wham! The heat hits you in the face. And then you get in there and you start unloading. We had trailers that had flap doors with center rollers built into them. So they had a belly and then they had the top portion. And so you had to unload all the top, get up to the nose, unload the nose, and then you'd start working your way back out underneath those flaps.
In the belly of the beast.
In the belly of the beast.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess the better question I should have asked before I asked that one, going to school for what you were going to school for, was this your job path when you came here part-time, or did it just grow on you as you went?
Not at all. The last week of high school, they send you out and tell you got to go out and put applications in because you're really not finishing anything,
right.
Your senior year. So I actually came over here and asked, I was like, "Hey, can I get an application?" And they said, "We don't take applications here." Said you have to go to the unemployment office and file it through the state. And I was like, okay. So I had no interest in driving over to Edwin C. Moses to do that. So
Gotcha.
I went somewhere else.
Gotcha.
And just started going to school. I was always interested in how things work.
Okay.
That's what I ask a lot of questions. I like to take stuff apart, see how it works and why it works that way. So I was going to a technical school.
Okay.
To learn computers and learn how to work on televisions, electronics, that type of stuff. And that's what I enjoyed doing.
That's how, and I'm going to interrupt you, and I don't mean to interrupt people, but I got to brag on you for, like, Mark does our safety displays, and they go from here, and they wind up in Sharonville and other places as well, and maybe because of the hands-on and what you went to school for, his displays are just awesome. I mean, he gets parts and pieces of trucks and hubs and lights, and I mean, it's everything. And he's very creative when it comes to. He did a snow plow one time. I thought the snow plow was really cool.
Now, the snow plow originated from an idea you had. You had came to me and mentioned it. You didn't know me all that well,
right.
But you knew I was the one doing those boards, and you said, "Hey, is there anything you could do for like snow plows so that our guys know to get over and get out of their way so they can clear the path for us? We got to be their friend because they're being our friend."
Sure.
So I was like, "Yeah, I can figure that out," and found me a snow shovel. And there's no budget for what I do. I mean, absolutely nothing is spent. I think the most that has ever been spent was like $47, and that was for some paint and some primer.
Wow. Well, the displays you do are they're phenomenal. I mean, I like your gator one. Watch out for the gators and stuff. But I mean, it's really cool.
I'm glad you like them.
Yeah, it's really neat.
That's what I try and make something that I know when the driver looks at it, that is what he sees almost in real life.
Yeah.
So, I will try to mimic as best as possible what it is that you would be standing there looking at on the truck. So whether that's a back door, and I've got to, build some kind of frame and get a piece of a door and out of the garbage, I get them out of the dumps where they throw stuff away from the automotive departments.
Right.
And so that's kind of how that all started. I had went on vacation, and I was on the safety committee, but I was just, low man on the totem pole as an observer, or whatever you call it. And I came back from vacation. We had a guy who was retiring, and they had a safety meeting. So when I came back, I was informed that I was now the demo guy as well as the observer guy. And I was like, well, I said, I don't know anything about computers because I don't mess with them. So they said, well, Shaggy prints out all this stuff. Shaggy, that was the guy who was doing it then. He retired, but he would, print stuff off the computer, and very seldom did I ever look at it. It was posted on the little clipboard out here in the front.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, I didn't care.
Well,
what was
they're not an attention getter by
No,
any means. No.
So I
would
would
walk right by
them.
them. Absolutely, yeah.
That's why I didn't bother to look. And so I told him that. I'm like, well, this is what I'm thinking. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to come up with something called a safety board, and I'm going to attach stuff to it, and it's going to have a certain, safety message about it, and it's going to have to do with all of our habits and our methods and why we do it that way, and try to make it as realistic as possible. And so first couple I did, they just fell in love with them. Dave Zeke down in Sharonville at the time, which he's now retired, that's what he fell in love with them. Apparently his boss liked them. So it was kind of a thing where they were getting accolades from people above them, and they were like, keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know exactly how many of them I have. I think there's almost 30, something like that.
They're really
different
good.
ones.
I mean, you do a great job. You
Yeah.
really do. They're super, and you're the guy to do it. Continue to do it. So.
Well, I must have an artsy crafts
You
thing
do.
about me or
You
something.
do. You're creative. You got a creative mind, which is it's good. That's very good. I didn't mean to interrupt you, so we'll go back to close to where we was. But what the other thing I want to get to, so I don't forget, you got your Circle of Honor last year, but your dinner was this year.
Correct.
And I've apologized to Mark that I didn't attend the dinner.
Oh, yeah,
I just don't do that thing. But he's gave me a pretty good hard time because he said he wasn't going to participate in this because I didn't go to his dinner, but I did congratulate him, and that's a great honor to have as well. So
It is. When we first started years ago, that's why I finally got in the package car. I'll kind of reverberate a little bit, but quickly about that. In '95, when I finally had spent 5 years and 10 months working part-time in the middle of the night trying to get a full-time job, once I realized what these guys were making and the retirement and the pension and all that stuff, I was done with the tech school, and I was like, man, I'll make a bunch more money if I stay here. So I kind of took that route. I dropped out of school after about 8 or 10 months of being here. I did not know how it all worked, but you would start your driving career. They did not give you any credit for air driving, which I became an air driver as soon as I turned 21. That's what I was able to do. That you couldn't, between 19 and 21, you couldn't drive a commercial vehicle.
okay.
So at age 21, I was like, man, there's a chance for extra money. I'm going to jump on that. So started air driving. Well, they don't count that as safe driving. And so once you hit as a full-time driver, that's when safe driving starts for you. So you have to work your way through. You go from the first year, you get to keep that. You make it up to, I believe it's, when you make it to 5, I think you get to keep 5. But if you have an accident in year 4, you go back to 1.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't consecutive running,
Right,
just
right.
1 year at a time.
Got you.
So you had to make it through that. Once you got to 10, they allowed you, I think if you didn't make it to 10, you had to go back to 5.
Okay.
But once you hit the 10, you got to keep that one. You never came back down, and you only lost whatever amount of time between there. So if you made it to 14 years and then you had an accident, you go back to 13.
Gotcha.
And so it took me, I calculated it up a year ago. I want to say it took me 26 years and 10 months because I'd had an accident in the package car. I had 2 of them.
Okay.
And that they were minor things. I'd hit a fascia board on an overhead that was cracked. And back then, that's what you had to. Well, even now, you have to report that.
Well, I remember you telling me that story,
so-
and it was like that. It'd been like that for years. And you say, hey, I went inside. I said, I touched this, and it's like, oh yeah, we want that replaced. So
Yeah.
I mean, but you're being honest. That's
Yeah,
where
well,
you should
it-
be.
I mean, if
and
you
if you're
weren't-
not, then it's out the door.
Correct.
Or that's how it used
Yeah.
to be anyway.
That's how it was, man.
That's
what-
a question I have for you, because I've talked to quite a few people with years such as yours. Your idea on how this company has evolved. I mean, and you can pick anything that you would like, but I mean, I see things that where I've just been here a short time, but they've changed so dramatically in a short period of time, with appearance, attendance. Now, I will say, management-wise, I don't see the aggressive intimidation style, which I personally like it that way. But through your years, I know that going way back, it was basically set as a military style
Yes.
when you came in, and with your appearance also. Or, hey, my hair is down touching my collar. Well, I don't have time to go to the barber. Well, how would you like me to give you all the time that you would like to go to the barber? In other words, you don't have a job, get a haircut.
You think you can do it in the next week because we don't want to see you back tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, so-
there
so-
were guys that might come in with a little bit of a 4 o'clock shadow or something. They didn't shave that morning, and they would send you up the stairs with a dry razor, no cream. You use the water in the sink, and you shave that face, cut it up, whatever it took it to get it done
Okay.
before you was leaving in the package car.
Okay.
I mean, that was just the way it was. It's like the military almost. I mean, they. I hate to say it was. They were very demeaning in the way they would speak to you. So I mean, they were like you said, dictators almost.
But
And
that's changed, though. Would you say?
yeah,
I mean, for the most part, that's really
it's
changed.
nothing. It's nothing. These kids that work here now, I sometimes think, man, some of these guys wouldn't have lasted one shift because the way they would speak to you. Just to get the job in the preload, or not the preload, but in the unload when I first got here, they would stand behind the truck and they had a little clicker in their hand. And you had to put out 1,200 boxes past them in 1 hour in order to qualify to even have the job.
Okay, gotcha.
So that was the minimum,
Okay.
1,200. They were looking for more. So the harder you would work, the better off it looked for you. But they tend to take advantage of the guys who would work that hard. You would be expected to do more than everybody else. And so it took me a little while to figure out the game because I was just trying to impress people,
Right.
I wanted this job and I was going to be here, and that's what I had a guy who was sorting for me within the first, I think it happened within the first 2 weeks that I was here. That's what he was, also the union steward, which then became a business agent with the union, named Ellis Woods.
Okay.
Great guy. And he was a lot older than I was. And I was 19 years old, young and dumb. And he was sorting for me, and I was putting the stuff out so fast that it was filling up his little bay. And so he would holler over there and tell me to slow down. And so at break time, we'd all go out and sit outside the building because it's so hot. Then it wasn't terribly hot because that was, first middle part of, what would have been, late May, early June, 2 weeks in. And he pulls me aside. He said, dude, you got to slow down. And me being me, I was like, well, why would I have to do that? He said, because you're going too fast. He said, I can't sort it that fast. I was like, well, that sounds like a you problem. So then he says to me, he says, well, listen, young man. He said, I can take anything that you can put out there. I said, well, if that's the case, we'll see when we go back from break.
Oh, boy.
So we go back up there, and he's trying to explain to me, but I'm not picking it up, that if you're going to last here, you got to work in moderation.
Gotcha.
You can't
Yeah.
overdo yourself
Right.
because they're going to expect more and more out of it. So we go back up there, and I'm putting them out faster. I mean, it's going everywhere on him. But I'm not doing it the way that they told me to do it. I was supposed to, everything's hand to surface, hand to surface, hand to surface. You hardly ever hear that anymore. But, I mean, they meant it. If they caught you a box hitting the ground that didn't come off your hands
Well,
to a belt.
That's a pet peeve of mine. I mean,
Yeah.
what they're doing these days, and I mean that's our retirement that we're seeing getting handled every day.
Exactly.
And I try to remind some of these young guys that, but that's where I think that some of it. I'm glad you touched on that I think that where somebody does need to step in, and without a lack of a better way of saying it, some of these guys need to not jerking their tail in and saying, look, you don't handle things that way.
Yeah.
I seen you do it once. The next time there's the door. But all that being said, and and what other places are paying and this, that, and the other. And I mean, it's just society in general that it's so hard to get someone to show up to work these days. So,
Yeah.
but
Nobody wants to work that
no,
hard.
they don't. They do
but
not.
Here, being a union place, being the Teamsters, you have to start at the bottom of the totem pole
Correct.
and work your way through every job
Correct.
in order to get somewhere. So if you're not willing to start at the bottom and work hard, you can't get to the top
No, I
where
agree.
it's not as hard on you.
I
and
agree.
the young kids expect it. I say young kids, I probably shouldn't say that. To me, people seem to expect to have everything right now.
No, right,
And they don't want to
immediately.
work for the years that it took me, 5 years and 10 months just to get a full-time job.
Well, it's an instant society, and I'm glad you touched on that too, because I've said something in the past where that being an outside hire and not knowing, and I mean, and until you find these things out, you don't know. I never realized how long people worked part time and the stuff that they did to get into the driving, not only the package, but how long it took to get into feeders. And I can see why. I mean, I'll just say it. I thought you guys were a bunch of when I mean, it's like, no, I mean, maybe that's the wrong way to say it. But it's
Imagine
like,
what we
it's
thought
like,
about you
oh, I know,
coming
that's-
in
that's
here
right,
and
that-
thinking this
but-
dude's thinking he's going to get the same treatment as us guys.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Because I mean, and it's like a built-in animosity on
It
both
is.
ends because nobody knows. And once I started realizing this, it's like, well, these guys aren't that bad. It's just that they had all this to go through, and here I put in an application, and
Yeah.
they hired me off the street. I didn't have to go through any of that.
Back years ago, they had built into the contract, they had to hire so many people from outside and so many people from inside. I don't remember exactly what it was the first contract that I got here. Like I said, I was 19. I didn't know much about unions and contracts and all that stuff. In that first contract, they put something on my paycheck one day, and I opened it up, and it said COLA. And I didn't know what that was. I had got a COLA raise. So I asked somebody on break time, I was like, hey, you look at your paycheck yet? The guy's like, yeah. I was like, what is this? I said, what's a COLA raise? I said, is that like soda pop? What? I don't know. I don't know this stuff. So I'm like,
Right.
what's a COLA raise? He said, dude, that's cost of
Cost of
living
living, yeah.
raise. He's like, it's built into our contract. When the economy gets out of whack, then they kind of kick in a few. I was like, well, cool.
Right.
So I got that when I was a part-timer. Never seen another one until 2 years ago. When
Okay.
we got another one
Yeah.
with our buddy Biden,
Yeah.
President Biden. I
Oh.
shouldn't say buddy. Be respectful to
It
the
might
office.
be offensive to
Yeah,
some
so-
people. Too.
With President Biden,
We
that's
have to
what
be-
was.
We have to be politically correct.
That's right.
With the hundreds
Yeah.
of millions of people that listen to this podcast,
Oh, yeah.
and I get
That's right.
hundreds of thousands of phone calls daily.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on my Instagram and all the places. So you may have 2 million visits. I don't know.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, let's fast forward. You're in the theater department. You've got the Circle of Honor. Let's see. What else I wanted to talk to you about?
I thought you'd want to hear about my package car career.
Well, I mean,
That's exciting stuff right there.
Wow.
Actually, the package car is the bread and butter of this company. Literally. Those guys are the hardest working guys.
Well,
They
I-
are the face of the company
I can see
because
that.
anything that goes wrong, you're the guy that's standing there with the package that they're the one you can talk to or they can talk to. So if it's good, you're going to get the accolades. If it's bad, you're going to get an earful. And you've got to be the guy to try and put out the fire because you're standing in front of them, And they don't want to talk to the person on the phone because
No,
a lot
you're
of
the-
times
you're
they
there.
can't understand English. They're
Right.
speaking in a different country, the phone call that
Oh my
just
God.
went out. So that job, you have to be self-motivated in order to do it. Because back then, we did not have a
you
system.
didn't have the computers.
No,
Did
no.
you start out on paper and pencil?
Correct.
Or pencil and paper?
As an air driver, I was on paper.
Okay.
As I was coming in, I think 8 months before I got in '95, as a package car driver, they got the first Diad number 1. This thing was huge. If you can picture a long clipboard,
Okay.
so it was about that size, and then the one end of it was about 2 inches thick where the battery was, had a screen on it, and then the rest of it was probably an inch thick. And the pin actually snapped into it. We
Okay.
had red pins and
Okay.
blue pins.
All right.
And back then, everything was known as red and blue because it was dictating whether something was a next day air or a second day air.
Okay.
So when it would come down, you had to, as a preloader, you had to pull all those packages, keep them, well, not the second days, but the next day stuff was kept separate, and you filled out what was called a blue card. And so we had grease pencils because there was no system to tell us what the sequence number was. We had to memorize what the sequence number was for 3 trucks. And then while you're working, trying to load those 3 trucks, the supervisors would come up there and say, hey, you got to do an 80-20 test. People would be like, well, what's an 80-20 test? An 80-20 test was, while you're working, they would ask you 20 of the streets with numbers on them, and you had to give them the sequence for that. You had to get 80% of it right out of 20
Okay.
questions.
All right.
Or else you was going to be studying more, and they would usually send it home with you off the clock. They didn't pay you to do it like
Right.
stuff they do now. If they
Right,
want you to do
right.
something, you take that home and you study those numbers. So I've got numbers in my head for stuff that's useless, but I still remember it. It's crazy stuff. Like there's a street called Bellsburg out by the Dayton Mall,
Mhm.
sequence 1080.
Okay.
You could go find that truck today. I think it would be on 10B or 10C was the route number, and sequence number is still 1080.
No
but it's
kidding.
in my head, but it's in the computer.
I'll be darned.
So the guys who load them now, I mean, all they got to do is look at the PAL label, tells them which truck it goes in, what part of the shelf. They broke things down from 1 to 8,000. And so you had to know what sections it went in, and if it was too big to go on that shelf, you had to get it in the floor in the right place so the driver, because we didn't know how many packages we had when we showed up. You might have 2 or you might have 17.
Okay. What about stop counts? Like today versus when you started. I mean, is it heavier load back then, or
No,
is it?
as technology moved along, they moved up the stop counts because they seen it in their eyes as they were quickening you up. So
Okay. And what do they have now? The Orion system or something?
I believe so.
But this thing tells you exactly how to run the route, right? But now, when you were running it, you pretty much picked which way
Correct.
you were going to go.
When
correct?
when you learned back then, you did not have anybody telling you. I mean, you tried to run it 1,000 section, 2,000 section, but you had to clear out the middle because it would be plugged up. So all your bulk stops, you had to go hit those early, get that stuff out. First of all, you had to go get your next day air.
Right.
Had to be off by 10:30.
Right.
You had late airs. I mean, it was serious stuff.
Well, it's costly.
Serious stuff. They had, when I was an air driver, they had what I think they still have. They had sonic air, is what they called it. Back then, they took it serious. If you had next day airs, if they missorted something, when I was the air driver, I used to do it quite a bit. Say something that came to the Dayton Mall here, and it got sent to Texas on the wrong airplane.
Mm-hmm.
They would actually pay for a seat on an airplane. They would get that package, take it to an airport, pay the cost of a seat, fly that into the Dayton airport, have me as the air driver go pick it up at the Dayton airport when it got there, drive it back down to the Dayton Mall and deliver it the same day. Now, it was
wow.
late,
Right.
but they made service on it. Nowadays, it doesn't quite work that way.
Wow.
I mean, it's nothing like that now.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
it cost them a ton of money, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
took it so serious
Oh,
that
absolutely.
there was nothing about rolling a load out in the yard for the next day. I mean, you processed it all.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was
If
no
it's
ifs,
here,
ands, or
if you
buts.
if it's here, you process it.
Yeah, it was going to get delivered if it showed up. I mean, it was, if you had something on your truck and you did not make an effort to get rid of it. I've known several people who got fired because they just sheeted it as being closed or something like that, and they hid it in the truck, and they lost their job over it because
I can see what. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think it's quite that way now. I could be wrong. I mean, it seems like a lot of things have laxed in that area.
Yeah.
You might get by that once without losing your job or something
Right.
now, but back then you would not.
Well,
It
the
was
accountability
one
level.
and done.
Well, that's everywhere, though. I mean, it's not just here. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's everywhere. I mean, the accountability level has really lowered the bar.
Yes.
All right. Let's hear your most memorable moment in package. Do you have one that stands out?
Oh, I've got
better than any.
I've got
any.
multiple.
I know, but
you ain't got time for all that, have you?
No, I mean we'd have a 5-hour program here, but no, I love to hear your stories. But is there one in particular that's family friendly or whatever that you can share in package?
Let's see. I'll tell you one that's it was kind of gross. That's what I was delivering downtown to the morgue down on West 3rd Street. 9 times out of 10, you'd go in the front door, ladies would sign for you, you'd chit-chat them for a minute, smile real big, and out the door you'd go in your UPS shorts. They were happy as larks.
Oh, okay.
So occasionally you would have to go around back because you got a bulkier delivery. And there was a lady who had an office towards the back. You would pull up outside of the garage door where the paddy wagon would pull in and out. And this particular day I had a bunch of paper and one of these big plastic things that goes under a desk for a chair to roll over. So I go back, ring the bell. Been there and done it many a times. This time the lady answers, go through the same process. Hey, it's Mark, got a delivery for you. Can you open the garage door? Yeah, you know where to put it. So she runs it up. I get all my stuff unloaded. I go to her office and she's not there. I'm like, well, that's different. Wonder where she went. So she was the one that just let me in. So I look to my left and there's a door there that has a piece of paper over the glass, and it looks like the old glass you'd see in a gymnasium at school with the little metal bars
okay,
running,
yeah, yeah.
you know, the little metal
Right,
grid in there,
right.
that wire. So I look at that and I read the sign and it says hazardous materials, and I'm thinking, oh, that must be where they, you know, they do the embalming or do something, you know, in there, whatever they're doing for this crime stuff. So I'm like, well, I look to my left and about 30 feet down, there's another door that looks just like it. No writing and there's no window covering. So I decide I'll go down there and see if there's somebody in there. So I walk down to that door and I got a surprise. As soon as I look in, I look down and and so I look away from that as quick as I can. I look to my right. You know, I'm trying not to make eye contact with that. And when I look to my right, I see 3 people over in the corner. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to see this. But it had already been seen. So immediately I turn from that and I go back to her office. And I was feeling a little weak in the knees, I'll be honest with you. I didn't like what I had seen. So I sit down in the chair. I'm sitting there kind of composing myself, and all of a sudden over the speaker I hear somebody say, "Can we help you back there?" I was like, "You sure can." I said, "It's Mark with UPS. I need a signature. I need to get out of here." So they're like, "We'll send somebody back." And it must have been 5 seconds later, somebody else comes through the back door, which was one of the ladies that worked out front.
Oh.
And she sees me sitting there, and she says, "Well, hi, Mark, how are you?" I'm like, "Not good. Could you sign for this stuff?"
Oh,
and
no.
out the door I went.
Oh,
So my first phone call was to my wife to tell her what I had just
Oh
experienced.
no! Oh Lord!
Couldn't eat lunch that day.
Well, you can't unsee that.
No, you could not.
No, I wouldn't want to see that.
No, so I mean, you've seen all kinds of stuff. I mean, from
Oh, yeah.
domestic violence cases, you show up in an apartment building, people
Oh,
were
yeah.
fighting and carrying on, to I showed up one time at a guy had fell off a roof, and they had just got there in front of me. The ambulance and stuff was coming down the street, and this old lady's inside screaming and crying.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm asking the cop, he's standing there with a toothpick in his mouth. I was like, "Should I just skip this delivery?" He's like, "Son, you can't do nothing for that old boy. He said,
Oh,
just
no.
step over him."
Oh Lord!
So I'm stepping over him, and I'm like,
Oh.
wow, what you might see in the course of a day.
Yeah. Well, I didn't expect that.
Uh,
You caught me completely off guard with that.
I mean, like I said, I could go on for hours telling
Well,
you stories.
I don't want to hear any more of this. We're gonna have to put some haunted house music on here or something. All right. Memorable moment in feeders. Your choice. Whatever. Maybe something not gross,
Not too gross,
or
Okay.
just not gross.
not gross at all. But all my memories have a little bit of grossness about them. I mean, come on. I can tell you, I got 2 weeks of training to become a feeder driver, which, in my opinion, I did not think was enough. Granted, mine was separated out because they gave me my first week, started in the second week, and they had some issues with management getting sick. Somebody else's wife was having a baby, and they needed my trainer back in Sharonville to run the day thing or something. So I got postponed from my first week. I think we worked seven days. So I did 2 weeks, 2 days, the second week, then it gets postponed for quite a while.
And this is coming out of package,
Correct.
and you had never drove
Correct.
a tractor trailer.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
taken me 5 years, 10 months to get out of part-time. Now it's taken me 18 years to get to the feeder department. So I'm coming over. I did not ever anticipate being a semi-driver, a truck driver. Package car was fine with me, but it takes a toll on your body. I mean, it wears you
Well,
down.
it has to,
Yeah, getting in and out.
especially
and,
on your knees, I would imagine.
Yes, back in '95, they did not consider ergonomic geometrically correct. So when you would step into the
You had
package
high
car,
stepping
it
trucks
was
back
at least
then,
2
too.
feet off the ground.
Yeah.
It was about the height of my knee.
Yeah, it's
so
nothing like what we got
no,
now.
that didn't roll in here until I can't remember if that was somewhere around 2004 or
And
2008.
we're talking stick shift and no power steering as
Correct.
well.
All you got was a bigger wheel.
Right.
And some of the stuff that I drove had wooden boards on the back behind your seat. They weren't metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had some instances downtown where people would take a hatchet while you were in the delivery building and beat out the lock around your stuff to get in the back.
Well, that certainly hasn't changed in all these years, has it? They come up with different ways of breaking into trucks, I'm telling you.
So yeah, it was.
Crazy.
I mean, it's been a long career. I've seen a lot of changes. You know, from the early time of doing stuff on paper to that first dyad I told you about. That lasted no more than about a year and a half, 2 years. They started finding out the guys were getting carpal tunnel because of the weight of the battery.
They
that
never
was hanging
admitted
out.
that, though.
I wouldn't say that they probably admitted it,
That
but
kinda-
they had so many guys out with it, they knew there was a problem, so it got redesigned pretty quick, where it was a little smaller.
I had heard that you could not get carpal tunnel that way, but they did change the system.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we'll just say that.
Yeah, we went to Dyad 2, then it got smaller again to Dyad 3, and then eventually you could wear it on your hip. But as of all those changes came, right before I had left the package car, they had just hooked them all up with buttons that you carried. You no longer had a key to the truck. So they took time away. If you ever see me out in the yard, you'll see that I've got my key over on my left hand, either on my pinky or my ring finger, because it was ingrained into you. You always had to have that key, so you
Right.
were ready when you got back to the truck. Key went in, you unlocked the door, and then over to the ignition. So
Right.
you carried it as
Right.
opposed to having it in your pocket, because if you were getting in your pocket every time you came back for 150, 200 stops,
Oh, yeah.
it adds time. You're
Oh,
reaching
yeah,
in,
absolutely.
then you. So when they put in that new system to unlock the doors, more stops, because now they're saving you so many seconds per every time you're getting in and out of the truck.
That makes sense.
So they can put more stops on the truck.
Yeah, but that just a way to work you even harder.
Correct.
Yeah.
At least that's what it seemed like to us.
Saved you time from getting in and starting your truck.
Yeah.
Put
It was all
more
push
stops
button.
on.
You know, you
Yeah.
hit the button, you get the front door to open, you press it and hold
Oh,
it.
you ought to have seen me when they told me to move a package car.
Oh, yeah?
I never drove one. I didn't know how to start it. I was pushing buttons and opening doors, and I heard locks unlocking. And
yeah, that's the
it's
back
like,
doors on the
yeah,
lock.
it's like-
It had different clicks from the front, and that's what I still probably remember. If you put one in my hand, that's what trying to think it
It's
through. I
crazy.
just remember you had to press it super quick, and then that would light up your dash, and then that's when you could hit your start button. That's how you got the
Well, it
truck
took
going.
me forever to get the dash to light up, so
Yeah,
I
you-
finally got it started.
You didn't know the system,
I had-
so we're
I
not
had
going to
no
blame me
idea.
for that.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was going to Fred Flintstone it, but it's just one of those deals. So.
Yeah. So you want to hear something real quick from feeders?
Yeah,
So
from
like
feeders,
I said, never
yeah.
planned on being a truck driver. You get 2 weeks training. Mine's separated a little bit. I get the second week from Randy.
Now, is this summer or winter time?
This is fall.
Fall. Okay.
Yeah, fall when I'm doing it. I believe it's fall with Randy. So I kind of got overlooked. So I came back, a month or two later. I'm like, hey, what's going on with my training? And they were like, oh, well, you kind of fell through the cracks. We'll have to see you, whatnot. So I eventually got my second week and got trained up. So now I get a safety ride, so to speak, whatever you call that, transition period where they're going to ride with you before they cut you loose. And that's why I had Purcell Brown. He goes to Lexington with me. And that goes well. So the following week, they're putting me on the route to Toledo, which used to be your old route.
Yeah.
Well, it hauled a long box, which was a rail yard box.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't have any experience with a rail yard box because I hadn't seen one. All I knew
Yeah.
was the other stuff they trained me
Now,
on.
you're talking about a container.
Container ship,
chassis,
yeah.
Chassis.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got to learn that. So the very first night on a Monday that I'm going out by myself, like I say, I've got 2 weeks separated training. I've got my
Ready-
CDL.
ready to
now.
go, man.
I'm ready to go,
Itching.
man. I think I know it all, baby.
Gotcha.
Back at this particular time, they are working on 75 north, and they have all of these Jersey barriers out there in the northbound lanes covering the fast lane up and whatnot. So I'm leaving out of here. It's raining cats and dogs. I'm soaking wet. And I'm thinking, man, this is dangerous stuff. I know it's dangerous, but I'm thinking this is really dangerous stuff. So I get out. I don't even get into downtown Dayton up by Sinclair. And as I'm coming past Sinclair there on the right, I'm looking, I'm trying to watch, and I'm so new, I'm looking at every sign, I'm looking at every bridge height and all that stuff. Well, I see all these lights out in front of me, and then all of a sudden it just goes dark. I'm like, what just happened? Then I see all these brake lights starting to come on, and I'm like, what in the world? So as I get up there, I'm 15 seconds back or whatever, as I get up to that corner, a semi and a long box had somehow got his back box and rode up to Jersey Bear, and it flipped him over, and he covered all 3 lanes up. So now I'm just past the Main Street exit with this big box. Mind you, I can't back. I can get it done, but I ain't efficient at it. So I'm still trying to learn.
And it's
raining. So I come to a stop. I'm not even 18 minutes out, and I have to call him. Hey, this is Mark Williams. There's an accident up here on the interstate. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do, but I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. The cops ain't got here, and they had to end up going from Stanley Avenue and coming back to get down to the wreck. So eventually they said just sit tight there until they get you moving, and we'll let Toledo know you're going to be late. So I'm sitting there in the rain, and where I'm wet now, my interior of my truck is fogging up because I'm soaking wet. And so we're not supposed to let the truck idle. So I've got it turned off. So of course, I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? So I'm sitting there, 20, 30 minutes goes by. Finally, the state troopers show up, and they go back behind me, and they start diverting everybody off Main Street to take you down off of Main and then get back on the other side. So finally, the guy gets up to me, and he's standing out there in the rain with his covered hat and everything. He's got this thing, and he's like, hey, son, I'm going to need you to back this thing up and get off there on Main Street. We're trying to clear you all out. And I said, sir, I'm more than willing. I said, but it may take me a while.
Oh man, what a trip! What a start of a trip!
Yeah, so that's my first day out.
Oh wow!
So first day I get her done, and second day I get through downtown Dayton. I'm headed to Toledo, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but I've got so much adrenaline I ain't feeling tired yet. That's what I'd always worked day shift. You knew what time you were starting in the package car, 8:45. You didn't know what time you was going home.
Right.
Could be whenever. But anyways, second day, I'm in the truck. I'm headed to Toledo. Everything's going well. I get up to about mile marker 186. Out in the country, it's 2 lanes, and there's a guy that's running behind me, maybe 50 yards off my back bumper. And to my left, there's a guy that's passing me, and he's made it up to my front tire. Well, as we come over this little hill, I look and there's a bridge, so I take my eyes up. Like I said, I'm new, so I'm reading, 16'4" clearance. And when I bring my eyes back down, I look and there's 2 dogs, and these are large farm dogs, standing out in the middle of the road. One is dead in the middle of my truck. The other one is about 2 feet into the fast lane where this guy's running. So I know there's a car behind me, and I'm thinking, man, if I slam my brakes on, this guy's going under. That's no good. So as all this is happening, the guy to my left, I just put my foot down on the thing and hit both of them, because the one was coming back, and I heard they were big dogs like Rottweilers that I guess had got out of a farm fence. So I don't have too much farther to get on in to Toledo. Well, I didn't know that I could have possibly tore the air lines off of my brakes. I didn't know to pull over. The truck was still running, so I was like, I'll keep going. So I get in there. As soon as I get there, the guard's there, and you got to shut everything down, hand your keys over. And I tell the girl that's standing there, I said, do you care if I get out and look under my truck? I said, a few miles back, and I don't know how much damage is done under there or anything. So she's like, no, go ahead. Get unhooked. And I pull around there, and it's time to go eat lunch. And I'm sitting there thinking, Mark, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. You should have stayed in the package car. This is 2 days in, and I've got all this stuff happening. I'm oh my gosh.
Maybe it was just going to Toledo.
I don't know. But it was a rude awakening to becoming a truck driver.
But look where you are now.
Oh, yeah, look where I am now.
Any regrets now?
Do I have to answer that?
No, you
don't. I've always told people, if I would have known back when I was young what it would encompass to get to here, I think I would have took a different route.
Yeah.
That's what I love, working in dirt and plants and flowers. I ran a little landscaping company before when I was working at Kmart and doing this.
Yeah.
And I had already quit, school, so I started being a landscaping company. And I enjoyed doing it. I was running commercial stuff. And I ended up selling that little business when I went full-time here. The guy bought the whole thing, bought the equipment, bought the company or the customers from me and whatnot. And so I think I would have probably enjoyed running my own business of landscape.
Or even staying part-time and have that.
Well, yeah, it was
I mean, well, I hear that by a lot of, really think about it, it's like, wow, okay, you're part-time, you got your insurance, you got this, that, and the other. And it allows you the time to go do, and there are people that still take advantage of that. So
yeah, there were so many people back in the late 80s and the 90s that they would work here part-time just for the benefits. We had a guy, I think his name was Steve Pemberton. He was a realtor. I can't remember the specific, I think Sibsy Klein.
Okay.
He came in, worked the minimum amount of hours possible that he could, 3 hours if they'd let him go, and he was a clerk during the preload. So he would come in, get that done, out the door. He wanted to
Not
go
a bad gig.
and he did it for the insurance.
Yeah, sure.
And he got all the benefits that come along with it. You got your health insurance.
Sure.
So and all that stuff. I mean, we always had a Cadillac plan of all that stuff. Even as a part timer, the only difference between our insurance and the full timer was when I first started, you had to, if you had a prescription, you had to pay for it and then bring that receipt in. They'd give you a form, you'd fill it out, they'd mail it off, and you'd get a check in the mail 2 weeks later.
Okay.
Where they gave you a card if you were full time.
Right.
You'd go and you never had to have any money out of your pocket.
Okay.
So I mean, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad. I don't know. I've enjoyed working here, still do, but I do plan on retiring quicker than most guys. I don't want to be here 40 years, 35 years. I mean, that's what 30 for me full time. I think I want to be done.
Okay.
So.
Well, everybody's got their different circumstances. I understand that, but I'm on the same page you are as far as retirement. I mean, and unfortunately, I haven't had my whole career here, which my retirement's a little jumbled.
Yeah.
But at any rate, no. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, as soon as I can get out of the door, I've had over 40 years in this industry, and I'm about a burnout on it.
Yeah.
I'd say I've seen everything that I want to and need to, I think. So
I did want to tell you some information real quick. I know
Okay.
you've been wanting to get an answer nailed down on Alex Gamber and whether or not he was stunt double for Magnum.
So you have the
I have the official scoop.
Okay. Let's hear it.
All right, so here it is. I've had this mustache right here since I was 19-year-old. Wow. It wasn't as full, it wasn't as thick. But what we did is Alex did all the scenes when he was in the Ferrari. I did all the scenes when he was outside. Because Alex wasn't tall enough. He didn't look enough like, the height-wise to get that Magnum look down.
Gotcha.
So we both tag teamed that.
Okay.
And just wanted to get that in there for you.
Well,
so,
hey.
Yeah, we got an answer.
Okay, so no, I won't ask. That's pretty. I like that. That's good. That's pretty good. So Tom, why was Tom even on the program? I mean,
we
Mr.
really didn't
Selig.
need him, but
did you have to call him Mr. Selig, or how did you approach?
We just called him Tommy.
Just called him Tommy. We got it from here, Tommy.
Yeah, just relax.
So
Go back to your trailer.
poor old Alex, he just wasn't tall enough to do the outside.
He couldn't do the
scene.
stand-up scenes.
My God, I never thought of that. Okay, so that's you out there hanging off the side of the helicopter
That's
and
me.
stuff and all that.
Yeah.
So now, did Alex?
I did all the kayak scenes.
Did he have to actually drive the car, or was that just like a green screen?
Green screen. Alex had a few accidents in his early years.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
He wasn't in his safe
I think
driving
there was
mode yet.
something about a monkey in his truck.
There is. Have you never been introduced?
I heard. Yeah, I know that. But I mean,
you know the monkey's name?
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, he has it named. He's got a safety vest on it. That is Myron, the safety monkey.
Myron.
He is known worldwide for his safety monkey down in the Louisville Whirlpool.
Okay, got you.
That's what, if the monkey's not with him, there's a problem. He's got a cardboard box built for the seat. He's strapped in with the seat belt
I've
every
seen
day.
it. Yeah. Okay, I didn't know his name was Myron.
Myron, the safety monkey.
That's pretty interesting.
Almost as interesting as Alex, huh?
Well, yeah. He's got quite the story though. Alex,
Yeah.
Alex got a
Alex actually taught me some stuff. That's what my first job after I actually got in the department, because I had to go back to packages from being just up for the summer, and then they sent me back for a Christmas peak. Then we had a guy retire, so I came back. I was the only one with the CDL and had the classification to get back in, so it went through the feeder department. I actually got the second Louisville run at nighttime. Alex had the other one for
Okay.
years and years and years.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't back. That's what, like I said, I was trying to figure it out, and I was slow as all get out, trying to hook those doubles up. So Alex made a deal with me that if I woke him up when it was time to get hooked up, he would put my dolly on the back for me, and then all I had to do was push them together.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
So-
that's a good deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah, so he taught me a few things. That's
Well,
what
good.
he would talk to me a little bit and try to explain stuff to me and whatnot, and it was fun with Alex. That's
Well,
why he's
that's
quite
good.
the character.
That is good. I do have to tell you, you accomplished your goal.
What did we hit?
We're over 51 minutes, so you've done you did more than Alex did.
Yeah.
He came in here saying, if Alex got 49 minutes allotted to him, I'm going to have to go at least 55. So, you've made this really easy on me because I'm not going to have to talk hardly at all. I
Not
mean,
much.
I'm just going to have to open the program up and with some music and say, hey, here's my driver's
I was going to
spotlight.
mention the quality of the program has really went down since those first two episodes.
It has went down.
It has. That's what I've been very disappointed.
Oh.
That's what, for some reason, you're not playing the Convoy song.
Oh,
I
wow.
really love the Convoy song.
There is a reason for that. There is a copyright issue with that.
What if you only play like 3 seconds of it?
It doesn't matter.
Still
Yeah.
breaks the contract, huh?
And being new to this, I really didn't know. I had thought what I researched was I could play, just a
Snippet.
segment of it and it close, but it gets a copyright claim every time I put it on there. Now that's not a strike. If you get 3 strikes, your channel gets taken down.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, but I did reach out to the people that own the rights and see how much it would cost to buy rights, which is kind of expensive. But that being said that I could. The response I got said, I guess it's okay on YouTube. But if it ever would get to a different platform, I'm looking at a 5-figure copyright claim
Yeah.
on each time, not just
Once. Yeah.
on each time. So I went with generic. That's on the selection. So I like the Convoy too.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Work in
song.
some horns and whistles and some sounds.
But you like sound effects. I'm gonna try to put
Yeah,
some sound effects in this. We'll sound it up and rewind and fast forward and bells and whistles and whatever I've got, bubbles or whatever.
I kind of feel a little cheated. You haven't even asked me what I like to do outside of work, and you haven't. Some of the other guys got, But
I didn't.
I talk too much.
That's okay.
Which is okay.
Go
no,
ahead. No. What do you?
I'm just aggravated.
What? No. What? Being Mark outside of work. I have to ask outside of work.
You know how long this would take?
What?
Now we're going to talk
Can
about
you,
me.
Can you? Oh yeah. Like,
By the way, I'm winking at him.
we
He's
haven't-
winking
we
back.
haven't- We haven't talked nothing about Mark.
Yeah.
No. What do you enjoy doing outside of work?
I love landscape. So in the summertime, I spend a lot of time in my yard. I love cutting the grass. I'll cut it 2 or 3 times a week just because I enjoy it. I'm very meticulous. I like the stripes. It's got to be one way. You can't cut the grass and go around a tree and keep that same pattern going. You got to level it back straight. And so even my wife won't ask me to sweep the carpet in the house because them lines got to be straight.
You got to make lines on the carpet.
Oh
too?
yeah, I can't help myself. So I'm very repetitious. The things I do, I've got a routine to them, and I stick to them, which I think helps me in the package car and in the semi truck because I follow the same thing every time. If you see me, you're going to see me get out of the truck and do a post trip, and that's just what I do.
Yeah.
I like to stay on my same little routines and whatnot. So same thing at home. I've got I got to do it a certain way, and I would rather do it myself than ask somebody else to do it for me because I want it done a certain way.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree
just
with you.
it's probably a bad thing because it drives my wife crazy. You know, she'll do something, I'll go behind her and do it the way I want it, and she's like, "If you're going to do that, I ain't going to do it anymore." And I'll be like, "Well, I appreciate the help, but I've got a sickness."
It's just a sickness. I can't help myself.
Yeah, so, but no, I love doing landscape outside, dirt bikes, four-wheelers. Grew up doing that stuff, enjoyed it. Hurts a little more now. That's what the body aches some. What else do I like to do? I like to water ski, but I ain't been in a boat for a while. I assume I could still do it, but I am a few pounds heavier since I got in this department.
Well, they say once you learn, it's like riding a bike. You might
You can't lose it.
You might fall down a few times, but you kind of, once you get the hang of it, I don't think you'll forget it.
Trying to think what else I really like. I love football. Love Cincinnati Bengals. Me and the guy that works here, we've been going to the home openers for over 20 years together. And the only time we didn't go was when the pandemic was on. They would only allow 5,000 people in the stadium or whatnot. So love Cincinnati Bengals. My wife says she misses me during the season because I kind of tune her out. She's talking, but I ain't listening. So it gets me in trouble a little bit. But the deaf ear comes in really good.
The deaf ear, yes.
Yeah, if she's on my deaf side, I don't hear nothing.
Oh,
Same way with some of these management people, they might be talking, but I ain't listening.
You're on my deaf side.
Yeah.
I have seen you turn your head quite a bit.
Well, I've got to have that right ear facing.
In the way that you even turn your body sometimes.
I do.
Yeah.
I've got to turn.
So that's on purpose.
Yes.
I'm purposely ignoring you.
Hey, maybe you should tell a quick story. We just had a little incident together a couple weeks ago when I was out in the yard heading to the garbage can.
Yes, we did, and actually, it turned out okay. Thank goodness. I was coming up between a set of trailers, and he said, he was taking his trash to the trash can. It just so happens at the time I did not have a horn in my yard bird. So I jumped all over the brakes, and unfortunately, for real deal, I was on his deaf side. He didn't hear a thing.
I heard the brakes squealing.
Well, fortunately, I got stopped. I will say that, and but anyway, nobody was hurt, thank goodness. But I did get a horn, so I have a horn that. I haven't had a horn since that bid started. So
you failed to mention my deer in the headlights look.
Well,
and I haven't mentioned your saucer eyes yet.
Kind of shock on both ends, I think. It was it could have been ugly.
I know it startled me a little bit. I'm very vigilant usually when I'm out in the yard, but that particular setup, I looked to my left, but you were coming from behind that trailer.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were there. I couldn't hear you. I hear in monotone, so everything has to come through the one ear.
Well, I didn't see you until you broke the plane of the trailer.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody. I didn't even know that your tractor was on the other. Yeah. On the right side of that trailer.
Have you ever hollered at me out in the yard or something, and you'll see me start doing circles? Yeah. If I can't see you, I've got to do a circle to figure out where the sound is coming from. Yeah. So I'm very vigilant when I'm walking.
He's like a bat.
Like a bat?
A bat.
I got the coronavirus.
No, not that. It's like their bat sonar stuff. No, really, seriously.
You see how easy it is to get sidetracked with me?
That's okay. That's entertaining, though.
That's what I just ramble.
Don't turn your head that way at me. I know that you're ignoring me.
Are you purposely. I thought it was my turn.
Oh, Lord. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun, and did we touch all the bases that you wanted to? Really, on a serious note.
I didn't have any bases that I wanted to touch. I really just figured I would just wing it, and whatever you asked me. That's why it's going to sound all jumbled up.
Okay.
Part-time, full-time, package car, all over the place. But
we have covered it. Unless there's something else you want to add. Do you want to add anything else?
No, let me say thank you to you for putting this together. That's what I know how much time I spend with my safety boards and trying to get that stuff done. I don't really know too much about what you do as far as editing this stuff and getting that all. I know you said you've had some snafus where stuff disappeared and you spent an hour or two looking for it. So I know you're spending your time to get it done. I enjoy it. I don't know how many guys are listening to it. I hope they all would. That's what I really didn't. I can't say that I wanted to be on it, but I don't want to say no because you need you need stuff to talk about, and that's what the driver spotlight just happened to be what you asked me to do. So.
No, I appreciate it. I really do. I thank you so much, and I do appreciate you listening, and I hope that it continues to go forward. And I hope by you saying that, I hope more people will let me take a little bit of time and sit down and because I mean everybody has something to offer on this platform, I think, and it's interesting. I mean,
Let me just say, you feel free to edit out whatever you want to. That's why if you need to get it back down to half an hour, we did an hour. I'm looking at your thing right now.
We're going to do a special.
You're going to do a two-parter.
No two-parter. We're just going to run with it. I mean, we're going to go with it. Well, Mark, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, buddy.
Thank you so much, and we'll do something else. If you have something else you want to talk about or a topic you want to talk about, bring me up and we'll do it.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
Wow, what a good time that was. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know we're running kind of long into this episode, but that's okay. Upcoming, I have another in the hub to add to that series. So I hope you all enjoy. Until next time, be safe.